The security guard's hand landed on my shoulder. Heavy. Final. Around me, 85 people I'd known my whole life turned to stare. Some confused, some embarrassed. Most just looked away. My father's voice carried across the marble floor of the Emerald Estates Grand Ballroom. "She needs to leave. Now." I stood there in my navy dress, the one I'd bought specifically for tonight, holding a small gift box. Inside my purse, folded receipts, bank statements, transfer confirmations. $47,000 I'd quietly moved into their accounts over 2 years. Money they thought came from investment returns. Money that paid for the crystal chandeliers above us, the champagne in their hands, this entire celebration. My name is Nicole Edwards. I'm 34 years old, and I'd just been escorted out of my own parents' 40th anniversary party. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Hit subscribe, because this story about financial manipulation and standing up for yourself is one you need to hear. The USB drive in my purse contained something that would do more than ruin their party. It would ruin everything they'd built on my silence. Growing up in Palo Alto, I learned that success in the Edwards family had one acceptable template. Marcus followed it exactly. Stanford undergrad, Harvard MBA, VP at a tech unicorn by 35. Married Stephanie Walsh, whose venture capitalist family could make introductions that turned startups into billion-dollar exits. I took a different road. UC Berkeley instead of Stanford, law school at Hastings instead of Harvard, tax law instead of corporate, single at 34, while Marcus had the house, the kids, the wife, and Los Altos Hills. The contrast shaped every family interaction. When Marcus made VP, my parents rented out the country club ballroom. 200 guests, string quartet. My father's toast lasted 12 minutes, detailing every achievement since Marcus's first spelling bee win in 3rd grade. When I made senior associate, 3 years ahead of schedule, youngest in my firm's history, my mother said, "That's nice, dear," and immediately asked if Marcus had mentioned his upcoming TechCrunch feature. I told myself it didn't matter, that I didn't need their validation, but I kept trying to earn it anyway. 5 years ago, Dad collapsed during his morning run. Massive heart attack, triple bypass surgery, 8 weeks of recovery requiring constant monitoring. Marcus called from a conference in Austin. "I'm in the middle of a product launch. Can you handle it?" I took unpaid leave, moved into their guest room, managed medications, coordinated physical therapy, drove to appointments, made sure he didn't overexert himself. 3 months of sleeping 4 hours a night, billing 0 hours at work, watching my promotion chances evaporate. Marcus visited twice, stayed 20 minutes each time. My parents thanked him for making time despite his busy schedule. 4 years ago, Dad's early retirement cut their income by 60%. They'd been living beyond their means for years, assuming his engineering salary would last until 70. Mama started mentioning downsizing, selling the house, moving somewhere more practical. I couldn't let that happen, not after watching them build that life for 40 years. I set up an automatic transfer, $2,000 monthly from my account into an investment account that fed into theirs. I routed it through enough layers that it looked like portfolio returns, dividends, smart investing paying off. They never questioned where the money came from, just accepted that their investments were doing better than they expected. $24,000 annually for 4 years, $96,000 total. From a salary that meant I lived in a rent-controlled studio in the outer Sunset, drove a 2013 Honda Civic, and brought lunch from home every day to save $15. 3 years ago, Marcus called at midnight, voice tight. "I need a favor, big one. His startup hit problems. Cash flow issues," he said. "Needed $75,000 to cover some gaps until the next funding round closed. I can't ask Mom and Dad, you know how they are, but I'll pay you back in 6 months, with interest." I'd been saving for a house down payment, had almost $90,000 in the account, close to 20% down on something modest in Daly City or South San Francisco. I transferred $75,000 the next morning. He paid back exactly $0. When I asked about it 8 months later, he said, "I thought that was a gift. Family, helping family. You're really gonna charge your own brother interest?" 2 years ago, Mom started complaining that their house looked dated compared to their friends. The Pattersons had just redone their kitchen. The Michaels installed a whole smart home system. "We just can't afford upgrades on our fixed income," she said during Sunday dinner, voice heavy with resignation. I found a contractor, paid $30,000 for renovations, new appliances, countertops, landscaping, Ring doorbell, Nest thermostats. Had him tell them it was part of a neighborhood improvement initiative, offering grants to longtime residents. They believed it, posted photos on Facebook about how blessed they were. One year, their 40th anniversary approached. Mom mentioned it constantly, how the Stevensons had thrown a huge party, how the Scotts had rented a yacht. "We'd love something special," she said, "but after everything, we just can't justify the expense." I contacted the Emerald Estate, their dream venue, paid $15,000 deposit, $12,000 for catering, told the event planner to list it as family contribution so Marcus could take credit for organizing it. Total spent is approximately $180,000 over 5 years. On a tax attorney's salary that should have bought me a condo, a reliable car, and maybe a vacation once a year. Instead, I lived like I made $40,000 annually while funding their comfortable retirement. And through it all, the small dismissals accumulated like paper cuts. Family dinners where they discussed Marcus projects for an hour, then asked me, "How's work?" before moving on 30 seconds later. When I won a high-profile case that made the Chronicle, Mom clipped the article but never mentioned it. When Marcus got quoted in a TechCrunch sidebar, she had it framed. Christmas gifts told the story. Marcus got Tag Heuer watches and latest model iPads. I got Starbucks gift cards with notes saying, "Treat yourself to something practical." Their house had 14 framed photos of Marcus, Stephanie, and their kids. 3 of me, all from elementary school. And the group chat. I found out about it by accident when Dad's phone was open on the kitchen counter. Family planning. Every major decision for 2 years, discussed without me. 3 weeks before the anniversary party, something shifted. Phone calls that ended the second I walked into the room, Marcus and Mom whispering in corners during Sunday dinner, Stephanie practically sprinting away when I ran into her at Whole Foods. I told myself I was overreacting, being paranoid, letting years of feeling second best make me imagine conspiracies. I was wrong. I thought being reliable, the daughter who fixed problems quietly, who never asked for credit, would eventually earn me the respect Marcus got automatically. What I didn't understand was that I hadn't earned respect. I'd become invisible. And they were about to use that invisibility against me in a way I never saw coming.
6 weeks before the party, I called Mom during my lunch break. "How are the anniversary plans coming along?" "Oh, we decided to keep it simple this year," she said. "Breezy, casual, just a quiet dinner at home, nothing fancy at our age." I almost mentioned the venue deposit I'd paid, almost asked if they wanted help with the refund process. But something stopped me, some instinct I'd learned to ignore. I said nothing. 2 weeks later, I was at Phil's Coffee near the courthouse, reviewing case files before an afternoon hearing. The place was packed. I'd grabbed the last table near the window. Behind me, a woman's voice, familiar but not immediately placeable. "Yes, I got my dress yesterday, navy silk, perfect for Linda and David's anniversary party." I went still. The Emerald Estate, can you imagine? That venue is stunning. They must have spent a fortune. Linda says the whole family contributed, but we all know David's engineering pension couldn't cover something like that. Elena Michaels, my mother's bridge club friend. My coffee had gone cold. I sat there staring at my laptop screen, not seeing anything, while Elena continued discussing seating arrangements and menu selections for a party that supposedly didn't exist. They hadn't canceled. They'd lied. I started paying attention after that, really paying attention. Week 4, before the party, I video called Mom to ask about recipes for Thanksgiving. She was in the kitchen. Marcus was visible in the background, on his phone. His voice carried through the speaker. "No, we're not telling her. It's easier this way." Mom's eyes flicked toward him, then back to me. Her smile didn't change. "So, about the turkey, you were saying?" Like I hadn't heard anything. Week 3, the Emerald Estate sent me a promotional email about their spring wedding packages. I'd been on their mailing list since inquiring about the venue last year. I called the venue directly. "Hi, this is Nicole Edwards. I wanted to confirm the status of the Edwards anniversary party." "Of course, Miss Edwards. Yes, everything's confirmed for the 15th. 85 guests, cocktail hour in the garden, dinner in the main ballroom. Would you like to review any of the setup details?" 85 guests. Not a small dinner at home. "No, that's all I needed. Thank you." I hung up, sat in my parked car outside the office for 20 minutes before I could go back inside. Week 2, I ran into Uncle Robert at the Wells Fargo on California Street, Dad's younger brother, the one who became a high school history teacher instead of following the family engineering tradition. "Nicole!" He hugged me warmly. "Looking forward to the big celebration next month. Your parents must be thrilled. Whole community's coming out for it." I smiled, made vague, agreeable sounds, excused myself quickly, drove to an empty parking lot behind a closed furniture store, and cried until my throat hurt. What happened next made me understand this wasn't just about excluding me from one party. This was about rewriting the story of who I was in this family, and they'd been working on that rewrite for longer than I'd realized. I did something I'd never done before, something that felt like admitting defeat, but was actually the smartest move I'd made in years. I hired a private investigator, not for anything dramatic, just to understand what story was being told about me, what narrative explained my absence to people who'd known me since childhood. The PI came back 3 days later with a report that made my stomach turn. Marcus had been telling people I was going through some things, mental health struggles, work stress. He used phrases like giving her space and respecting her privacy during this difficult time. Extended family members had been sending me those weird texts, "Thinking of you, here if you need to talk, no pressure, just wanted to check in." I thought they were being randomly thoughtful. They'd been checking on my mental health crisis. Mom's friends at Trader Joe's had been giving me those long, sympathetic looks because they'd been told I was fragile, struggling, not quite myself. They'd built an explanation for my absence before the party even happened. 3 weeks before the party, my phone rang at 9 p.m. Marcus. We never talked outside of family gatherings. This was unusual enough to make my chest tight with anxiety before I even answered. "Nick, I need to talk to you about something." His voice sounded wrong, thick, unsteady. Was he crying? "Mom and Dad's anniversary is coming up. I've been doing a lot of thinking about our family, about how I've treated you over the years. The money you lent me, I should have paid you back years ago. The way I've let Mom and Dad treat me like the golden child while you got nothing, it's not right. It's never been right." I sat down on my couch, put the phone on speaker because my hands were shaking. I know I can't fix years of damage in one conversation, but I want to start, and I think the anniversary party is the perfect opportunity. I thought that was just a small family dinner. "That's what Mom said." He laughed, but it sounded bitter. "No, it's a huge thing. 85 guests, cocktail hour in the garden, dinner in the main ballroom. Why wasn't I? That's what I'm trying to fix. I told Mom and Dad this morning that either you're invited and properly acknowledged or I'm not coming, and I mean it." We talked for 2 hours. He apologized for specific moments I'd almost forgotten.
The time he let Dad dismiss my law school graduation as less important than his MBA acceptance. The Thanksgiving where he'd taken credit for a dish I'd cooked. The years of letting me be invisible. At the party, he said, I want you to give a toast. Tell everyone what you've done for Mom and Dad. The financial support, the caregiving, all of it. It's time they knew. I went to bed that night feeling something dangerous. Hope. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Text from Stephanie. Just a screenshot. No message. It was from the Edwards family group chat, the one I wasn't in, time-stamped during my call with Marcus. Marcus. She totally bought it. Tears and everything. This'll make the party so much easier. One less thing to worry about. Mom. Good. I knew you could handle it. Dad. Make sure she doesn't just show up anyway. Maybe suggest she has work obligations that weekend. Marcus. Already planned. I'll call her Friday, say I heard from her firm about a big case. She'll be too embarrassed to admit she wasn't actually asked to work. Below the screenshot, Stephanie had written, Thought you should know. This is disgusting. We're fighting about it. I'm sorry. I sat on my bathroom floor, read the screenshot 12 times. The apology hadn't been real. The emotion in his voice had been performance. My brother, who I'd given $75,000 to, who had covered for, who I'd supported, had spent 2 hours manipulating me into staying away from a party I helped fund. I went to work that day, took a deposition, reviewed tax filings, ate lunch at my desk like always. But something fundamental had changed. The part of me that kept trying to earn their love had finally died. And the part that understood exactly what I'd been funding, my own erasure, had woken up cold and clear and ready. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number, but local area code. Nicole, this is Robert, your uncle. I know who you are. We need to talk. Not on the phone. Can you meet me tomorrow? His voice was urgent, almost angry. I know what they're doing to you. And I have information you need to see.
1 week before the party, an email landed in my inbox at 4:37 p.m. Subject: Final guest list confirmation, Edward's 40th anniversary. From Maria Torres at emeraldestate.com. I opened it thinking it was promotional, another push for their spring packages. Instead, I found a forwarded thread. My mother's email at the top, the coordinator's response below, and attached a PDF of the complete guest list with table assignments. The email had been meant for my mother, but my address was still in their system from when I'd made the initial deposit 8 months ago. I downloaded the PDF, 85 names organized by table. Table 1, David and Linda Edwards, Marcus and Stephanie Edwards, Dr. and Mrs. Patterson, Judge and Mrs. Scott. Table 2, Extended Family, Uncle Robert, Aunt Susan, cousins I hadn't seen in 2 years. Table 3 through 9, parents, friends, neighbors, Marcus's colleagues, people I'd known my entire life. I scanned every name twice. Mine wasn't there. At the bottom of the scanned guest list, in my mother's handwriting, I recognized her looping script immediately, a note. Important. If Nicole shows up, hotel security briefed. Do not make scene. Explain private family event, not on guest list. David will handle if necessary. Maintain decorum at all times. They'd briefed security. About me. Their own daughter. I read that note 5 times, then closed my laptop, sat on my couch staring at nothing. The next day, I called in sick. First time in 3 years. Stayed in bed until noon, ceiling fan rotating slowly above me, traffic sounds from the street below. Normal Wednesday continuing without me. By 2 p.m., I got up, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and something that had been bending for 5 years finally broke clean through. Not into anger yet, into clarity. I opened my laptop and started building folders. Financial documentation. Bank statements, every transfer, every payment, dates and amounts. The recurring $2,000 monthly payments for 4 years, $96,000. Marcus's loan, $75,000. Home renovations,
$30,000 in receipts from the contractor. Dad's medical expenses I'd covered, $18,000 in hospital bills, pharmacy receipts, medical equipment. The party? $27,000 in deposits and payments to the Emerald estate. Communication records. Text messages from Marcus asking for money. Emails with the event coordinator showing I'd arranged and funded the party. The screenshot Stephanie sent of their group chat. The accidental guest list email with mom's security instructions. Supporting evidence. My bank account history showing the financial strain. My work evaluations showing the promotion I'd been passed over for taking leave for Dad. Photos of the renovations I'd paid for that they'd posted on Facebook, crediting good fortune and smart investing. I created a new folder on my desktop, named it 40th Anniversary Gift. For a moment, I thought about just showing up anyway, walking in, forcing them to make the scene they'd planned to avoid. But that made me the villain, the unstable daughter who crashed her parents' celebration despite being asked to stay away. They'd spin it however they wanted. Mental health struggles, boundary issues, poor Nicole, still desperate for attention. I needed to do something they'd never expect from quiet, grateful, invisible Nicole. I needed to use what I was actually good at. Tax law, financial documentation, legal mechanisms for reclaiming improperly transferred assets. I pulled up California Family Code Section 3950, financial elder abuse, except I wasn't the abuser, I was the funding source they'd exploited. But more relevant, undue influence statutes, transfers made under false pretenses, money given with the expectation of reciprocal family inclusion that was deliberately withheld. My gifts weren't gifts. They were consideration in an implied contract. I provided financial support, they provided family inclusion and acknowledgement. They'd breached that contract. Then I looked up contract law around loans. Marcus's $75,000 had never been documented as a gift. I had texts where he'd said, "I'll pay you back." That made it a debt, legally collectible, with interest. California allows 10% annual interest on personal loans unless otherwise specified. 3 years at 10% compounded, he owed me approximately $99,825. And the investment account feeding my parents their monthly returns? Technically in my name. They were listed as beneficiaries, but I could revoke that designation anytime. One form, their supplemental income would stop immediately. I had leverage. Legal, documented, ironclad leverage. And I had something else, something they'd never expected me to develop. The stomach for ruthless decisions. Mom once told me I was too emotional for law, that I'd never make it in a field that required cold calculation, that I'd always let my feelings get in the way of what needed to be done. She was wrong. I'd just been saving my ruthlessness for people who deserved it. I opened a new document, started drafting. Draft 1, formal demand letter, Marcus Edwards, re-outstanding debt $75,000 personal loan plus interest. Draft 2, revocation of beneficiary designation, reinvestment account number XX7789. Draft 3, itemized financial support documentation for distribution to extended family. I worked until 3 a.m., refined every word, made sure every claim was defensible, every number verified. This wasn't about screaming or crying or begging them to see me. This was about consequences. Cold, legal, permanent. At 3:47 a.m., I got a text from Uncle Robert. "Can't sleep. Keep thinking about our conversation. I have more to show you. Breakfast tomorrow?" I texted back, "Yes, bring everything." Because if I was doing this, if I was really burning it all down, I needed to know every detail of what I was burning. My mother had taught me one true thing in my life. Family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up. Well, I'd been showing up for 5 years. Time for them to learn what happens when I stop.
Uncle Robert chose the meeting spot. Hong Kong Lounge in the Sunset District, far enough from Palo Alto that we wouldn't accidentally run into anyone from the family's social circle. I arrived first, ordered tea I didn't drink, watched the door.
He walked in at 8:02, carrying a worn leather messenger bag that looked like it had survived 30 years of high school classrooms. Sat down across from me, slid a manila folder across the table before saying hello. "I've been documenting this for 15 years, he said, "since your college graduation when they threw Marcus that party at the country club and took you to Cheesecake Factory." I opened the folder. Printed emails, the oldest dated 2009, between my parents. Linda to David, "We need to manage Nicole's expectations about the graduation celebration. Marcus's MBA acceptance is the real milestone here. We can't split focus." David to Linda, "Agreed. Small family dinner for Nicole. Save the real celebration for Marcus." There were more. Dozens more. 2015. "Robert keeps suggesting we acknowledge Nicole's caregiving. He doesn't understand. If we make a big deal of it, she'll expect recognition for every little thing." 2017. "Told extended family we're helping Nicole through financial difficulties. Easier than explaining why she's never at events. Makes us look generous rather than her looking antisocial." 2019. "Marcus's TechCrunch feature is framed. Should we frame Nicole's Chronicle mention? David says no. Sets wrong precedent." Then bank statements, showing my parents had been telling relatives they were supporting Nicole during her struggles while depositing my transfers into their accounts. Photos from family gatherings I'd never been invited to. Thanksgiving 2018, Christmas 2019, Easter 2021. All posted on Facebook with captions about cherished family time and blessed to have such a close family. I was in none of them. "They've been taking credit for supporting you," Robert said quietly, "while you were actually supporting them. And they've been using your absence as proof that you're troubled, unstable, too self-absorbed to make time for family." My throat was tight. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "I tried. 3 years ago, remember? I said you should reconsider your family obligations, that you were giving too much to people who didn't appreciate it." I did remember, vaguely. He'd seemed intense about it at the time. "Your mother cornered me after that conversation, told me I was poisoning your relationship with them, that if I kept interfering, I wouldn't be welcome at family events anymore." He pulled out another document, his own bank statements from 20 years ago. "David borrowed $40,000 from me in 2004, said he'd found an investment opportunity that couldn't miss, lost everything within 6 months. When I asked about repayment, he told me to let it go, because family doesn't keep score." Robert's voice was level, but his hands weren't quite steady. "But apparently family does keep score, because when you needed help, not money, just acknowledgement, they erased you." "Why are you helping me now?" "Because I'm tired of watching David control the family narrative, and because you deserve better than what they've given you." Over the next 5 days, we built the plan. I drafted the demand letter for Marcus, formal legal document citing California Civil Code Section 1605 on personal loan obligations. Amount due, $75,000 principal, plus 10% annual interest compounded over 3 years. Total, $99,825. I hired a process server. Scheduled delivery for 7 p.m. on the 15th, right during dinner service at the Emerald Estate. I also prepared revocation paperwork for the investment account, the one that had been feeding my parents $2,000 monthly for 4 years. Technically my account. They were just beneficiaries. One signature. Their supplemental income would end. Robert had information about Dad's retirement investments. They'd been co-investors in some rental properties years ago. Robert, Dad, and 3 of Dad's engineer friends. Dad had been skimming, taking higher management fees than agreed, making the investments look less profitable than they actually were to avoid splitting returns fairly. Robert had the documentation. Spreadsheets, bank records, emails where Dad directed the property manager to route certain payments directly to him. We don't need to expose it. Just let them know we can. If they try to dismiss your financial claims or paint you as vindictive, we remind them that David's financial ethics are questionable at best. The 3 other investors would be at the anniversary party. All we had to do was mention we had concerns about the investment accounting. I created a detailed breakdown, professional formatting, clean design. Looked like a financial report because that's essentially what it was. Title: Financial support provided to Edwards family 2019 to 2024. Every transfer listed with date and amount. Every expense I'd covered. Every sacrifice documented. Not for public posting, not for social media humiliation. For the family. For the aunts and uncles and cousins who'd been told I was struggling, who'd been told I was too unstable or self-absorbed to make time for family. They deserved to know the truth. Robert revealed something I hadn't known. Stephanie, Marcus's wife, had been documenting everything for months, recording family planning meetings, saving text message threads. She's disgusted by all of this, Robert said. The party exclusion was the last straw. She's considering divorce. She's been recording them? Audio recordings of Marcus and your parents planning how to handle your inevitable dramatic reaction when you found out about the party. They actually used those words. With Stephanie's recordings, we had proof this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was premeditated exclusion. Calculated cruelty. 2 days before the party, my phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Edwards, this is Gerald Bennett with Morrison & Associates. I represent your brother Marcus Edwards. My stomach dropped. I'm calling to inform you that my client is filing for a restraining order. You've been harassing the family with threatening communications regarding debt collection and references to public accountability. I haven't sent any threatening. Text messages and emails over the past week constitute a pattern of harassment under California Civil Procedure Code 527.6. The restraining order hearing is scheduled for Monday morning. Until then, you're advised to cease all contact with the Edwards family. Monday, the day after the anniversary party. My client has documented everything. The hearing will likely result in a minimum 100-yard restraining order. That would include the Emerald Estate on the 15th. He hung up. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear. If the restraining order went through, I couldn't go near the party. The process server couldn't approach Marcus. Everything would fall apart. I called Robert immediately. They're blocking me legally. Restraining order hearing is a Monday. If it goes through before the party, I can't execute any of this. Robert was quiet for a long moment. Then we move everything up. Process server hits Marcus tomorrow at his office, before the hearing. That gives him 2 full days to prepare, to control the narrative, to get ahead of the story. Or it forces him to react publicly, at work, where his colleagues see it, where he can't control the environment. Robert's voice was steady. Your choice, Nicole. Play it safe and risk losing everything when that restraining order goes through, or strike early and risk him having time to spin it. I thought about Marcus at his tech company, getting served with debt collection papers in front of his team. 2 days to panic, 2 days to make mistakes. Do it, I said. Tomorrow. At his office, noon. And the party? I'm still going. If they want to have me arrested for violating a restraining order that doesn't exist yet, let them try. I paid for that venue. I'm going. The week before the party, Mom posted on Facebook. So blessed to celebrate 40 years with my devoted husband, surrounded by the people who truly matter. Family isn't always blood. It's the people who show up. 83 comments. All praise. All talking about their amazing family values. Marcus shared it. Grateful for parents who taught us that family comes first. Always. The irony was choking. 2 days before the party, a group email went out to extended family. I was accidentally included for about 3 minutes before someone removed me. But I'd already seen it. Looking forward to celebrating with our real family this weekend. No drama, no negativity, just love and appreciation. Some people just don't understand what family means. but we're blessed with those who do. They were setting the narrative, but Marcus had already been served. At noon that day, in his office, Stephanie texted me at 12:47. He's losing it. Called emergency family meeting tonight. They're panicking. Good. Let them panic. Robert would attend the party as invited. Stephanie would record from inside, and I would walk in as venue staff and deliver the truth they'd been running from for 5 years.
I didn't crash the party. That's what they expected. Dramatic Nicole showing up uninvited, making a scene, giving them the perfect story to tell afterward. Instead, I arrived as venue staff. Black slacks, simple blazer, leather portfolio under my arm. Hair pulled back, minimal makeup. I looked exactly like the event coordinator's assistant verifying final payment details. Security didn't even glance at me. The Emerald Estate was stunning. Everything I'd imagined when I'd paid the deposit 8 months ago. Marble floors catching the evening light, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay, white orchids on every table. My $27,000 made visible. I walked through cocktail hour, past champagne powers and past appetizers, guests laughing, completely unaware. Robert saw me from across the room, gave the smallest nod. Stephanie caught my eye, phone already recording in her purse. I found Maria, the venue coordinator, near the kitchen entrance. "Miss Edwards," she said quietly, warmly, "I wasn't sure you'd actually come. I need to make an announcement. 7 o'clock, before dinner service." She hesitated. "Your parents were very specific that you weren't..." "Check the contract. The person who made the deposit has the right to address guests before the meal. That's me." She pulled up the paperwork on her tablet, found the clause, read it twice. Looked at me with new understanding. 5 minutes before dinner, she confirmed. At 6:58, Maria dimmed the lights, handed me a microphone. The room went quiet. 85 faces turned toward me. I watched recognition spread. Confusion first, then surprise, then awkward glances at my parents. Mom's face drained of color. Dad stood, started toward me. Marcus grabbed his arm, whispered something sharp. "Good evening. My name is Nicole Edwards. For those who don't know me, I'm David and Linda's youngest daughter." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some guests genuinely seemed surprised they had a youngest daughter. "I'm not here to cause a scene. I'm here to give a toast, tradition at anniversary celebrations, and to clarify some financial details the hosts may have overlooked." Dad's voice carried across the room. "Nicole, leave, now." "I'll leave when I'm finished. Since I paid for 35% of this event, I'm entitled to 3 minutes. Dead silence. Many of you have heard I've been struggling lately. Mental health issues, career problems, too unstable for family gatherings. That's the story you were told. I pulled out my tablet, connected to the presentation screen Maria had set up for the photo montage. Bank statements appeared. Transfer records, receipt after receipt. Here's what actually happened. The numbers scrolled. Monthly transfers, $2,000 times 48 months, equals $96,000. Medical expenses, $18,000. Home renovations, $30,000. Party costs, $27,000. Marcus's loan, $75,000. Miscellaneous support, $14,000. Total, $260,000. That's how much I've given this family over 5 years, while being told I was too broken to attend family gatherings. Robert stood from his table. "Since we're being honest," his voice steady and clear, "I'll add context. 20 years ago, I loaned David $40,000 for a business investment. He lost it, never paid me back. When I asked, he said family doesn't keep score." He held up his folder. "But apparently family does keep score. When Nicole asked for acknowledgement,
Not money, just recognition. She was erased, while David and Linda told everyone they were supporting her. Mom was crying, real tears, not the dignified kind she used at weddings. Marcus moved toward the screen. This is out of context. Stephanie stood. No, Marcus, it's not. Every head turned. I have recordings of you planning this party to exclude Nicole, of you laughing about how she'd cry when she found out, of your mother saying Nicole was too successful and made them look bad. She held up her phone. I can play them right now. The room erupted, overlapping voices, relatives demanding explanations, friends edging away from my parents. At 7:15, the process server walked in. Marcus Edwards. Marcus turned, face already red. You've been served. The envelope contained my loan demand, $99,825 due in 30 days. What is this? He tore it open. Debt collection, $75,000 you borrowed 3 years ago, plus interest. You said it was temporary. You never paid me back. Legally, it's a loan in default. A man in a suit stepped forward, Marcus's lawyer, Gerald Bennett, the one who'd called me about the restraining order. Since we're serving documents, he pulled an envelope from his briefcase, handed it to me. Nicole Edwards, you're being served with a cease and desist for defamation and a civil complaint for financial elder abuse. The room went silent again. Different kind of silence. I opened the envelope, scanned the complaint. Financial elder abuse? My voice stayed level, despite my heart hammering. You're 34. Your parents are in their 70s. According to California Welfare and Institutions Code 1561030, you created financial dependency, then threatened to withdraw support unless you included you in family events. That's textbook elder exploitation. Some guests were nodding, whispering. This sounded plausible to people who didn't know the details. You coerced elderly individuals into accepting money under false pretenses, then used that manufactured dependency as leverage to control their social relationships and decisions. My clients are prepared to pursue both civil and... That's interesting, Robert interrupted. His voice cut clean through the room. Because I have emails from Linda and David discussing how to hide the fact that they were receiving money from Nicole, specifically to avoid acknowledging her contributions or thanking her publicly. Direct quote from Linda, dated March 2022. If we admit Nicole's been helping financially, she'll expect recognition. Better to let people think it's our own money. That's not exploitation. That's fraud on their part. The lawyer hesitated, glanced at Marcus. And, since we're discussing elder abuse, I have documentation that David Edwards has been skimming from shared retirement investments. 3 other investors, also elderly, also trusting family, have been systematically defrauded. I looked directly at 3 faces in the crowd. Carl, Martin, Jennifer, the co-investors Robert had told me about. David's been taking higher management fees than agreed, routing rental income directly to his personal accounts, making your shared investments look less profitable to avoid splitting returns fairly. All 3 faces went pale. Robert has the bank records, the emails, the property management documents showing the real numbers. Dad's champagne glass slipped from his hand, shattered on marble. The lawyer looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Dad. Dad looked at the floor. So let's be clear, Robert said. If you want to pursue elder abuse charges against Nicole for trying to support her family, we'll be filing criminal complaints against David for actual financial fraud against multiple seniors, including me. The lawyer closed his briefcase, said nothing. Marcus's face had gone from red to white. Thought so, Robert said quietly. Nicole gave you 5 years of support. She covered your medical bills, your mortgage, your lifestyle. She funded this party, and you excluded her because her success embarrassed you. The room was completely still. Mom approached me, mascara streaming. Please, you're ruining everything. You ruined it. When you decided my success was an embarrassment, when you let Marcus take my savings, when you erased me from family photos and told people I was unstable. I turned to the guests. As of tonight, all financial support ends. The investment account closes, the loans are due. This family will learn what it costs to actually earn respect. Dad's second glass, he'd grabbed another, slipped, more shattering crystal. Mom sank into a chair, guests looking away, embarrassed for her. Marcus stared at the debt notice in his hands like he couldn't process the numbers. Stephanie was already at the exit, car keys visible. Robert's hand landed on my shoulder. First real support I'd felt from family in years. Guests gathered purses and jackets. The party dying in real time. Some trying to leave quickly, others staying to watch the collapse. I turned to leave. Dad grabbed my arm, hard enough to hurt, leaned in close, voice low and venomous. "We're not done with you."
I pulled free. "Yes," I said, "we are," and walked out. I didn't wait for his response. Walked toward the exit with Robert beside me. Behind us, the party was collapsing, voices raised, chairs scraping, the careful social performance my parents had built crumbling in real time. In the parking lot, Stephanie caught up to us, breathing hard, keys already in her hand. "I'm filing for divorce," she said. Not to me, to the air, like she needed to say it out loud to make it real. Not just because of tonight, because of who Marcus has become trying to please them. She handed me a USB drive. Everything I recorded, in case they try to rewrite what happened here. Robert drove me home. Neither of us spoke. The city passing outside the window. Normal Saturday night for everyone else. When we pulled up to my building, he finally broke the silence. "Your grandmother, my mother, and David's would be proud of you. She always said the strongest people are the ones who know when to stop carrying others." I went inside, sat on my couch in the dark, still in my staff outfit, still holding the USB drive Stephanie had given me. Waited to feel something. Victory, relief, satisfaction. Felt hollow instead. The next month, the fallout was specific, brutal. Marcus's lawyer tried to dispute the loan, called it a gift, claimed the promissory note was coerced. But my documentation was ironclad. Text messages where Marcus said, "I'll pay you back in 6 months." Emails discussing repayment terms. We settled on a payment plan, $3,000 monthly for 30 months. I closed the investment account, feeding my parents their supplemental income. They listed their house within 2 weeks. But the extended family damage was worse than I'd anticipated. Aunt Susan called me crying, said she'd defended my parents to her own children for months, told them I was unstable, that the family was just giving me space. Now her kids won't speak to her because she enabled abuse. She'd chosen the wrong side and lost her children's respect. Cousin Jennifer, the one getting married next spring, uninvited my parents. They'd already bought plane tickets to Boston, already booked a hotel. Elena Michaels, Mom's Bridge Club friend, posted on Facebook 3 days after the party. "Sometimes the people we think we know best are strangers wearing familiar faces." 43 comments. Everyone knew who she meant. Mom quit the Bridge Club. The investment group Dad had been skimming from, Carl, Martin, and Jennifer, filed a complaint with the California Department of Financial Protection and Consumer Services. Nothing criminal came of it, but the investigation meant depositions, documentation, their entire retirement community found out. Dad can't show his face at the clubhouse anymore. Marcus's firm found out about the debt collection. Not from me, from someone at the party who worked at a competing tech company. They quietly suggested he take a voluntary leave of absence until his personal financial matters were resolved. 2 months later, he was laid off in a restructuring that somehow only affected his position. Marcus and Stephanie separated officially. She moved out with their 2 kids. And then there was the thing that sits heaviest. Marcus's daughter, 7 years old, drew a picture in school.
art therapy assignment about family. She drew her mom, her dad, her little brother. And off to the side, small and separate, a stick figure with a label in careful first-grade handwriting. Aunt Nicole, who made Daddy cry. Her teacher called Stephanie. Stephanie sent me a photo of the drawing. That one I kept. Not as a trophy, as a reminder that revenge has a cost, even when it's justified. My law firm found out about the party. Someone had recorded it on their phone. Within days, it was circulating in San Francisco legal circles. I expected consequences. Firing, maybe, professional censure for making family drama public. Instead, the managing partner called me into his office. "That was one hell of a debt collection," he said. "Legally flawless, morally questionable, but flawless." He offered me senior attorney. Said standing up to family proved I could handle difficult negotiations. I accepted. The promotion felt hollow, like winning a prize I didn't actually want anymore. 6 weeks after the party, Mom called. First time since that night. "The house is in escrow. We're moving to a 2-bedroom condo in Redwood City." I waited. "Your father wants to talk to you." Dad's voice came on, different than I'd ever heard it, smaller, uncertain. "I need to understand why you couldn't just talk to us, why this had to be so public." "Because private conversations never worked. You dismissed me every time. This was the only language you understand. Consequences." Silence. "The money Marcus owes you. Can we negotiate the payment terms?" "No, the agreement stands." I hung up. Cried for an hour. Not from regret, from grief. Grief for the family I'd wanted but never had. 3 months later, I started therapy. Not because I regretted what I'd done, because I needed to understand why I'd waited so long to do it. My therapist asked what I'd tell 25-year-old Nicole if I could go back. That love shouldn't cost $260,000. That family isn't something you buy your way into. That being invisible is a choice you make every time you accept being diminished. I'd spent 5 years trying to prove I was worthy of inclusion. The moment I stopped trying, I found my worth. 1 year later, I ran into Mom at Whole Foods. We both froze, stood there in the produce section while people pushed carts around us. She looked older, smaller somehow. Her hair had more gray than I remembered. "How are you?" she asked, voice quiet. "I'm okay. You?" "The condo is... we're adjusting. It's manageable." Silence. Shoppers flowing around us like water around stones. "Marcus paid off the loan last month. Final payment." "I know." More silence. "I'm sorry," she said. Not loud, not performative. Just said it. Not just for the party, for all of it. For making you buy your way into a family that should have chosen you freely. My throat closed up. "I know," I said. We stood there. 2 women who used to be mother and daughter, now just people who knew each other's damage intimately. "Maybe coffee sometime?" she offered. Not hopeful, just asking. "Maybe," I said. I didn't call her. But I didn't say never either. I don't regret what I did, but I recognize it wasn't clean. Marcus's kids lost their intact family. My parents had to downsize in their 70s. Extended family relationships fractured in ways that won't heal. Was it worth it? Yes. Does that mean it didn't cost something? No. Uncle Robert and I have dinner monthly now. Stephanie texts occasionally. She's dating someone new, someone who doesn't require her to enable cruelty. My parents and I haven't spoken in 4 months. Maybe we never will again. And I'm learning to be okay with that.
So here's what I need you to think about. First question. If you were in that ballroom, one of those 85 guests, would you have stayed or would you have walked out? Be honest, because some of you would have thought, "This is too messy, I'm leaving." Some would have thought, "This is justified, I'm staying to watch." And some would have pulled out your phones to record. Tell me in the comments which one you'd be and why. Second question. What should I have done differently? Cut them off quietly, confronted them privately first, gone further with the revenge, or not done it at all? Because here's the thing I'm still wrestling with. At what point does protecting yourself become punishing others? I didn't just stop the financial support. I did it publicly, with receipts, in front of 85 people. I timed the debt collection to arrive during dinner. Had my uncle threaten to expose Dad's investment fraud. Was that justice or revenge? Because it felt like both, and I'm still figuring out if it was worth the cost. Third question. If you've been the invisible one in your family, the one funding everyone else's comfort while being excluded from their love, when did you finally stop? What was your breaking point? Drop a comment. Tell me your story. Hit like if this resonated. Subscribe for more stories about family dynamics, boundaries, and what it actually costs to stand up for yourself. Share this with someone who needs to hear that being the bigger person doesn't mean being a doormat forever. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be used, even when it costs everything, even when you're still not sure if you made the right choice. Thanks for listening.